So in 2010, only 1/7 of the world's population used social media, and now in 2019, almost 10 years later, that number has risen to over 1/3 of the world's population. The cause of this is basically a psychological addiction so strong that it resembles a physical addiction. Neurological studies have shown that social media users have suffered brain damage in exactly the same regions that are affected by drug addicts, and these damaged regions are related to the attention and decision-making processes that are crucial for us to perform those basic functions in our daily lives. This happens because social media offers very rapid rewards in exchange for very little effort. These rewards, which are as simple as likes and comments on your photos on Instagram and Facebook, trigger the release of dopamine, a pleasure hormone that is easily produced with a simple post of a photo or a comment on any social network. And because this interaction with your followers is so easy, we end up becoming compulsive. The more likes we receive, the more dopamine we release in our brains, and the more we want to use social media. This compulsiveness is worth billions for these companies, as the more they can dominate your attention with these rewards that are distractions, the more money they receive from ads. On the other hand, you lose out in 4 scientifically proven ways that I will show you now. The first is that you worsen your memory and efficiency in multitasking. Studies have shown that compulsive social media users, despite constantly shifting focus among different social media platforms, they have lower ability to perform task switching with productive efficiency. This happens because they end up being more easily distracted with external, banal interruptions and are more easily interrupted. They have lower capacity to focus and retain information for memory, and therefore they also lose efficiency in memorization. Damage number 2, you lose control of the continuity of your attention. Studies have shown that each interruption we suffer takes an average of 23 minutes to return to the focus of what we were doing before. And the more times you are interrupted, the greater the chances of you becoming distracted involuntarily again later in the same day. Perhaps that's why another study also showed that we touch our phones an average of 80 times a day, or once every 10 minutes. Another study showed that we end up using our phones for around 4.7 hours a day, in other words, a bottomless pit for those who procrastinate and need to be productive. Damage number 3, you become more egocentric and vain. Despite the promise of social connection, it has been proven that reward centers in the brain become more active, that is, they produce more dopamine, when people talk about themselves. Social media can say that this is normal. After all, it is human nature to think more about ourselves than others, but not to such an extent. While in face-to-face conversations in real life we reserve around 30 to 40% of our time to talk about ourselves, this number jumps to almost 80% on social media. In the end, social media tend to make us up to twice as self-centered and egocentric as we are in real-life situations. Damage number 4, your thought structure becomes more shallow and trivial. In the book The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains by Nicholas Carr, when we go online, we enter an environment that promotes superficial reading, hurried and distracted thinking, and shallow learning. And this makes a lot of sense. While you're trying to pay attention to this video, there are at least 10 ads on the side of YouTube. Your phone must be vibrating right now, sending you notifications from apps, and you must be receiving news feeds on your browser, all of them trying to steal your attention, distract you, and take you out of the present moment. A study with 149 high school students in Canada showed that those who frequently use social media were less likely to engage in reflective thinking and were less successful in achieving moral goals. My conclusion from all of this is that social media ends up encouraging us to have a more passive attitude. There is so much information and distractions suggested all the time by our phones and computers that we end up only consuming, becoming spectators instead of protagonists in our lives with very little mental effort. This ends up leading us to even less interest in reading books, producing our own ideas, producing art, or having critical thinking. I think this is natural, and it becomes increasingly difficult to change because everyone around us has the same habit. I believe that, as a society, we are normalizing spending so much time on social media without realizing how harmful it can be for us. Think about it, spending 4.7 hours a day on our phones, checking them every 10 minutes, is it healthy? Is it okay? I think that, in my opinion, it is too much. I think we can use social media with more balance and awareness, but to achieve that balance, we will have to reduce our daily usage averages significantly. To motivate you, a study showed that people who fasted from Facebook for 4 weeks became considerably happier, reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety. In summary, it's time to rethink our relationship with social media and how much we use it. All I wanted to suggest were 3 small and simple actions that were very powerful and helped me a lot to be more present, with more energy and much more focused on what I really need to do. Suggestion number 1, turn off all notifications. Yes, I know it may seem harsh, but it's not the end of the world. The apps are still there, the messages too. The only difference is that the phone won't invade your attention anymore. It may even give you that fear of missing out, but really everything will still be there. The only difference is that you'll choose when and how to use these social networks. For example, the only notification I leave on is for direct messages on WhatsApp because I know there could be an emergency from a friend or family member. But for everything else, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp group notifications, they're all turned off. Suggestion number 2, choose fixed periods of time to check for updates. I've determined that I only look at notifications for 30 minutes after lunch and for an hour after I get home from work. I try to avoid using social media when I need to be productive. You can choose whatever time you want to use social media, but the proposal is that you use that time with intention and awareness, so that you start choosing what, when, and how to use these social networks. Suggestion number 3, start acting more actively and less passively. Engage in activities where you are the protagonist, the creator, where you make an effort to create and value your individual expression. Read more challenging books, write your ideas daily in a journal, just as I talked about in the review video of the book The Art of Possibility. Express your opinions, get involved in debates and dialogues, open your mind to listen and reflect on prejudices and your way of seeing the world. Try to create as much free time for yourself as possible, have more moments of just you with yourself, and don't rely on likes from an external audience. Let the only member of your audience be yourself because, at the end of the day, reflective and profound thinking is the result of an internal dialogue. This way, you become more independent, creative, and connected with your essence.